I'm going to tell you about a mistake that 90% of beginning watercolor artists make that costs them time. Their painting process takes longer and it's a bigger struggle. And I know this because I made the same mistake for a while when I was learning watercolor. I want to share with you some example paintings and what the problems were with them. And then after these critiques and the lessons I'm going to go over with you, I'm going to show you a video of a loose floral that I did using this technique. This first painting I want to show you I did a long time ago. The date's on there. I'm going to hide that. That's how old this is. I did not understand that you want water to work with your watercolors. It has that name for a reason. I approached it as if I were painting with the pigment pretty much straight out of the tube. And then you can see I'm holding this little tiny brush. I am a very detail-oriented person, less so than I used to be, but the majority of my life I'm very detail-oriented, and I think a lot of people are. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that sometimes it can work against you. I used not very well diluted paints and this tiny brush. The major problem was these little tiny brush strokes, and I couldn't get the colors to blend. I had to take a lot of time. So look at all these little tiny strokes. And as long ago as I did this painting, I can still remember, oh, how am I going to paint the grass? There's so many blades of grass. Well, in watercolor, we have ways of working with that so that we can suggest the grass, suggest blades of grass when it's important, and it's not always important. So this is the major problem with this painting. Now in the horse, look at this part of the horse's belly. I was working wet on wet. I'd put some water down and then I came back with what looks like burnt sienna and let it blend. And it gave a really, really pretty effect. Also, there's some other areas in the horse that seem to work well, and you can see by the shape of this brush stroke that I was either pressing the brush down or using a larger brush. And that's the key. You can save time by using a larger brush because you need fewer brush strokes. Here's another example of a tight watercolor. You can see that I've tried to paint in almost every petal of the lilac. And you can see here's a place that I scrubbed out that I didn't like, and I never even went back to finish it. And the reason I didn't finish it is because I knew this composition wasn't working. I didn't like the shapes. I didn't like how the flowers and the leaves seemed so separate. I had some nice effects in the background, but you can see there's like a halo around the flowers. I want to show you, by contrast, one that I used very few brush strokes. It's clear that I either used a brush like this large round brush, or a brush like this. This is a quill. This is a Princeton Neptune Quill number 8. I was able to quickly paint this painting. That lilac painting I just showed you, I probably worked on it for 3 or 4 hours or longer and was ultimately dissatisfied. This one, I think it took me 20 minutes, maybe 30. Wasn't long at all. I had my pigments mixed up. I started with light values and then I started dropping them in. After it dried, I put in another layer. You can save a lot of time and get beautiful effects when you use big brushes. Saves you time, and the process isn't such a struggle. Now here's the unfair advantage. This painting clearly is a combination of loose and tight. And so what I was able to achieve in this painting was a feeling of depth. The flowers that are loose are more in the background. The flowers that I want to be the subject are much more tight, where I did go back with a small brush. Another thing about the unfair advantage, you can paint faster and you can choose when to work loosely and when to work tight. So now you've got the full breadth of techniques that you can use to be able to tell the story that you're wanting to tell in your painting. Here are the materials: a Princeton Neptune Quill size 4, a Mimic Creative Mark round size 6, a Royal Langnickel flat size 8, an Escoda Optimo Liner size 6, premium brand Bright Rose, Daniel Smith colors Perylene Maroon, Serpentine Genuine, Undersea Green, and Raw Umber, Winsor Violet by Winsor Newton, and Shadow Green by Holbein. The paper I used is an Arches watercolor block, cold pressed, 140 pounds. And now here is a demo on painting a crepe myrtle in a loose style. Starting with the drawing, I'm beginning the painting of the crepe myrtle using premium brand Bright Rose. The brush I'm using is a Princeton Neptune Quill size 4. Notice how I've loaded the brush heavily with pigment and that the colors are drippy on the page. You can't tell from the angle in the video, but I had the paper up on an easel that was at an angle. I've diluted the paint to the consistency of milk. Using clean water on my brush, I'm softening the edges of the colors of the petals in such a way that they start to bleed into the background. I have 2 jars for rinse water. The one on the left I use first and the one on the right I use second. This means the one on the left always has a lot more paint in it. The reason this is important is that when I rinse the brush in water that's not perfectly clear, some of the pigment will remain in the brush and blend with the paint I already have on the paper. You can see it here. It's not a super bright pink. And that's actually good because I want to start bringing some green into the background. I'm using Perylene Maroon for the shadows on the flowers. To deepen the shadows further, I'm adding in Winsor Violet. Notice how the paints are mixing together by themselves on the paper. Using Serpentine Genuine, I am now starting to introduce some of the stems in between the flower blossoms. This can be tricky because it does involve some negative painting, but I'm not afraid to let the color of the wet blossoms bleed into the green that I'm using. This is something that will help the color unity or color harmony. I was tempted to try to do this painting alla prima, which means all in one go, but the paper was drying too quick in order for me to do that, and so I needed to paint this in sections, which is challenging if you want your colors to blend with each other to a certain extent. Using Undersea Green, I'm now starting to paint in the background leaves. I'm now adding Shadow Green to the background leaves. I'm dropping in Winsor Violet to make shadows. You can see I'm still working wet into wet. To the right of the flowers, I've started with Shadow Green and then decided I wanted to brighten that green by adding in Serpentine Genuine. By dropping in relatively clean water, I can keep the pigments wet and moving. Now I'm starting to add in some of the details by painting in the stems. The beauty of this brush, which is the Princeton Neptune Quill size 4, is that it can do large washes and come to a very fine point to do some detail work. I'm using Shadow Green and then Winsor Violet. I've switched brushes to a Mimic Creative Mark round, size 6. I'm applying Winsor Violet. To make some stems stand out, I'm actually lifting pigment with a damp, flat brush. I had preserved some white spaces between the blossoms and the background leaves to suggest highlights on the flowers. But it looked a little stark to me. By brushing on some clean water, I'm able to get those colors to blend a little bit. Now I'm repeating the process with the remaining flowers, again starting with the bright rose. Because I'm working down the page, I'm starting to paint in the leaves and the stems. I'm going back and forth between shadow green, undersea green, and serpentine genuine. I'm adding raw umber to the stems. This next flower is in shadow. Though I'm starting with the bright rose, I'm going to come back with Winsor Violet to make that flower actually appear to be in shadow. I'm working wet into wet, and watch what happens. I've completely ignored this drip because I know that I will be able to work around it. I've dropped shadow green into the Winsor Violet, and that causes nearly a black color. Very cool trick for getting shadows. Tilting the paper helps the pigments to blend. Just be careful you don't do it too much, or they'll all just turn into one color. Now I'm painting in some of the buds with Perylene Maroon. Notice how I seem to be throwing the color onto the paper in a haphazard way. This is the beauty of painting loose. You almost can't be wrong. Here's a crepe myrtle painted in a loose style in less than an hour.